girl Sassy MC here, and I would like to welcome you to LIB Latest News 231 YouTube channel. LIB Latest News 231 is the place where you can watch all of your political news, entertainment news, and sports news. To stay informed about the latest news, please subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the notification button on your screen for more videos from Liberia, Africa, and the world at large.
Renovated, so now we are up to the graciousness of today, and we all work hard on making things to go toward the positive direction, and for this reason it is nice to have such a positive start for the whole week. As you know, the European Union, we have taken into account, into practice the new instrument for development cooperation called, and I have to do this, I'm terribly sorry. It's called Neighborhood Development and International Cooperation Instrument, NDI, but we realized that this is too much of EU jargon, so we call it Global Europe. The programming has been done in handshaking with the outgoing European Development Fund and incoming Global Europe program. So all programming was actually funded and managed pretty much by the NAO office, and then together with close cooperation with the Aid Management and Coordination Unit. Luckily, both of them are under the same ministry, so the cooperation has been seamless. We obviously have all been learning how this new instrument operates, but honestly, in the field, in practice, the cooperation has been usual business as usual. So we have deployed a team of experts who have been talking to all your good ministries, agencies, and in a day-to-day management, we have not changed almost anything. Also, as agreed a long time ago, we will continue the setup of signing the financing agreement with the government. We simply could not consider operating in this field without the government's consent and the government being in the lead. So the program is focusing mainly on identified growth potential, job creating and sustainable areas, which is the demand on one hand is the food security, where we are not only focusing on agriculture, but the whole food system, also keeping in mind the potential export opportunities in the region and the European Union. So, at the same time, on the other hand, there is the supply, and that's the natural resources. And we all understand that there is no endless, repetitive production of food if we don't take care of the nature providing it. These two flagship projects, obviously I mentioned already, they come from the PAPP, but we are now working on them as what we call the Team Europe initiative, and we have the honorable representatives and ambassadors from the participating EU member states. So the idea is that why don't we combine our resources together with the government, not only limiting to this office of the EU delegation, but also working together with the embassies. I just now noticed that I didn't do the protocol, so Honorable Minister Tweah, who is also carrying the hat of the National Authorizing Officer, so you have a double importance for the success of the program. The ministries and agencies that are here welcome the EU ambassadors, representatives, implementing partners, some NGO members. I have to also pick up from the ministry the NAO office. Marcus, welcome. We are on daily cooperation. I hope there is somebody from AMCU, the Aid Management Coordination Unit, and then of course the media. And the National Election Committee. So, we, in the list of your documentation, we have listed the programs. You will see the value of them. We are finally able, after this signature, to start participating in the UNDP implemented election support to the elections program. And the contract will be signed retroactively, so the eligible costs will start from the beginning of this year. We did this because we are quite late in coming in with the resources, considering the proximity of the elections and of course what is going all around it. Talking of food security and natural resources, there is also one element in the success of this program, which is skilled labor. And we have, together with the member states, invested almost 85, 90 million US dollars, depending on the conversion rate, where Sweden, France, and Germany are contributing to what could be called Team Europe effort, but we did not decide that this will be called as a flagship program. We focus on those food and biodiversity programs. Also in the elections, I'm coming back a little bit, Ireland and Sweden have been actually carrying the program until now when the EU funding is coming in. Then I already mentioned the two programs, the food security, so food systems, and the forest and biodiversity. We believe that the European Union has a comparative advantage, especially when it comes to agriculture. We pride ourselves of our agriculture efficiency and quality of products, as well as consumer safety. And I would say that now when the Swedish ambassador is here, we also pride ourselves of comparative advantage in forest management. And I myself come from Finland, and we work together with Sweden in research and production. So we are going to sign now the 4 financing agreements, and perhaps the ambassador would like to say something, and maybe the minister, or after. Thank you.
Signature to full financing agreement intended to promote democracy and support the forestry sector in Liberia.
And financing agreements from 2021 to 2027.
Biodiversity.
Congratulations, Minister. Thank you Ministers, members of government, heads of agencies, I see NEC, the FDA, LACRA, many of our partners in the EU development support program to Liberia. We're particularly happy to have you here today. We also celebrate this year the 50th anniversary of the EU-Liberia partnership. It is in 1973 that the European community at the time opened its first representation in Liberia. And we have just moved back into this building, which is our historic office since the early 2000s. We've just renovated it, and we're particularly happy to greet you in this new building. The 4 programs that we are signing today kick off the new phase of EU support from 2021 to 2027. We have 4 programs this time. There will be 4 more programs that we are working on with the government, and that should be signed sometime next year. The 4 programs that we have here today, as has been explained, the first one is on elections, and we are very happy to bring structural support to the National Elections Commission. This is not only about the 2023 election, it is also a longer-term support to the NEC, because we feel that elections, the running of elections, has to be taken in financed by the country itself. And this is what is happening now, and we are very happy that all the necessary funds have now been provided by the government to NEC to run the election. Our support will be additional to that. We also include today in our programs a program on TVET to finish the 8 counties that have not been covered yet by TVET. Ministers of Youth and Sports and Education are with us today. We were just discussing the issue with the honourable ministers in my office just before now, to find a way to ensure that the young people who are going to train in these institutions have jobs immediately as they come out, and that there is the best adequacy between the trades that are given to these young people and the needs of the job market, both in government and in the private sector. And this is probably an additional component of the program that will need to be developed in the future. On forestry and biodiversity on the one side, and on food systems on the other side, we are working in the framework of what we call Team Europe initiatives, because the EU is not only the EU delegation here, it's also the 4 member states and their embassies and the bilateral programs, and we have decided to work particularly hand in hand on these 2 issues, one forestry and biodiversity, the other one food systems. It is about contributing to ensure that the existing forest and the existing biodiversity in Liberia will still be here for your children, for the children of your children, and for their own children in the future. Deforestation, unfortunately, plagues Liberia as it does many other countries in the world. There is much to do to ensure that the future can be with a sustainable forest. It is not only about conserving parts of the forest and protecting them from human interference, it is also about ensuring that logging activities are compatible with sustainability. It is not about stopping logging, it is not about stopping the exploitation of the forest, which needs also to contribute to the development of the country, but it is about doing so in a sustainable way. And the EU will support, FDA will support forestry, local communities to ensure that this is the case. On food systems, it's a wider support than traditional support to agricultural operations, because we feel, and we've had many discussions with this, I think the Minister of Agriculture is on her way to join us also, that there's been a lot that has been done to support Liberian agriculture, but there is maybe not a lot to show for at the moment. And so with the other development partners, we really want to ensure that the support to Liberia to feed itself encompasses the whole range of issues around nutrition, around food systems, incorporating seeds policy, incorporating extensions, incorporating systems that will ensure that, for instance, Liberian rice can feed Liberians rather than depending so much on imported rice. We want to ensure the sustainability of these programs in agriculture, and we feel that the private sector is the way to go for the future sustainability, that farmers can create companies, can subsist thanks to the markets and project themselves in the future, not only by depending on support from the government or from donor agencies. This is what we aim to do, this is what we ambition to do with the government. This is once again hand in hand with the government. All these programs have been prepared with the relevant line ministries, and I want to thank our implementing partners, those that we are already working for, the future ones that we will be working for in the future, to contribute to the perennial implementation of the friendship between Liberia and the European Union and of 50-year-old cooperation. We are opening a new era for the next 50 years of EU-Liberia cooperation. Thank you very much. If the European colleagues want to say a word.
Honourable ministers, distinguished representatives of authorities, ladies and gentlemen, let me stand on protocol. For us as member states of the EU, it's a privilege to be here. And we are looking forward to these 4 components, but also further ones. And what is key is that it is under the leadership of the Liberian government. You are in the leadership, we are in dialogue, we want to align, we want to support, we want to complement. And we promote an inclusive national ownership, also taking on board the whole Liberian society. Because we're here for a prosperous Liberia, and the PAPD will end in July. We are in discussions on drivers of development. We want to be partners in development in Liberia. So thank you very much for the cooperation and congratulations on these 4.
Maybe just to add a word, I would like to thank very much honourable ministers and all persons in the room, all the people observed. I would like to thank very much the EU delegation for the organization of this signature today. And we are very happy to be there as member state and to attend these signatures. This demonstrates that the EU altogether, the Europeans, are one of the main partners for the development of Liberia. They were yesterday, they are today, and they will be tomorrow after the free, fair, transparent and inclusive elections of October 2023. Just to add a word, the great day will be when there will be no such ceremonies, when Liberia will be in a position to collect enough resources from the companies, foreign companies and Liberian companies to run the state and to make public investment. And this is also a direction in which we have all to work, and I think the 3 programs signed today go in this direction. Last word, just to be more specific, as member state, we had an interesting discussion about the CBET and about the results, how to improve the tool to have better connection with the private sector, with employment. I would like to mention we had a ceremony in April. Mr. Minister, you were in Washington at this moment. Mr. Wilson was there for a program we have launched, which is a smaller program with the Agence Française de Développement, providing scholarships to young librarians. And this was launched some years ago, and we have 20 of them who come to the end of their bachelor, and they have to make scholarships. And they are doing scholarships in Côte d'Ivoire, in Yamoussoukro. There was a specific angle in this program with the French language and with the regional integration. So these young students are coming back. They were looking for scholarships, and I wrote to the companies of the French Business Club, and within 1 week, they all found a scholarship. Within 1 week, and the companies were asking, and the companies, I said to them, let's wait, there will be 20 more every year. So I mentioned this just to say it makes us optimistic, because it shows that there are young Liberians, many of them who are talented, and if opportunities are given, they are clever, they are working hard, and they can get jobs, and the companies need them. So we are working to match with the need of the companies, and I think we are going in this direction with this program. Thank you.
Thank you very much. On behalf of Germany, I would like to add my voice to the previous speakers. It is an honor to be here, together with you, ministers, representatives of the Liberian government, colleagues from the European Union. As you know, Germany has been at Liberia's side for many years, for decades, from the condonment of debt after the Civil War, through years, decades of cooperation in various fields, education, infrastructure, health, biodiversity, and others. It was mentioned, the French ambassador just referred to the opportunities, job opportunities. I think it is very important from our own experience in my country that the education in Tibet is linked to employment. So employability is one sector, one aspect, employment is the other aspect. And then, of course, many youngsters are looking for government jobs, but even better would it be, according to our experience, to establish small companies, like family-driven companies, with their own capital or with loans from banks, and then gradually generate jobs and employ other people and train other people, so that small companies, small medium companies become multipliers. And then they can send out people, be it to government, be it to private, to the private sector. I think this is one of the main forces for the future, and as was just said by the French ambassador, we all, the European Union, have been with you, with Liberia, with your citizens in the past, we are with you in the present, and we will be with you in the future.
Brian Simon from the Irish Embassy. I'd like to echo the comments made by my colleagues and stand on existing protocol. The ambassador mentioned that it's 50 years. This year is an anniversary, 50 years of the relationship between Liberia and the EU. And Ireland also celebrates the 50-year anniversary this year. That's 50 years of our membership of the EU. And over that 50-year period, our country, our economy, we've seen great progress and great development over that time. And I think that the relationship between Liberia and the EU has the potential to see great progress as well. So we're delighted to see this, the signing of these documents today, and we're optimistic about the future. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Honourable ambassadors, ambassador of the European Union, distinguished members of the cabinet, distinguished heads of agencies, members of the press, ladies and gentlemen. Today we are gathered here to celebrate a new milestone in our 50-year relationship with the European Union. Let's give it up for the European Union. With Liberia, I remember when I was in high school, I used to see, I think it was ECC, European Economic Commission. You used to see those things on the car. So the EU has been here, and through thick and thin, through our crisis, our conflict, and we're all now groping for a way to do development better. I think that's what the spirit is about. We've got 50 years of lessons to learn from, looking back in different phases. Now we have this global initiative, which is a new program, and we've identified key priority areas. Natural resource governance for sustainable growth and development, jobs and inclusion, and then democratic governance and financial governance as well. And so we'll talk about each one of these boxes because that's what the program is about. Mr. Ambassador and ambassadors, you know, Liberia is a wealthy country. Liberia is not a poor country. Our natural resource wealth means we are wealthy. The challenge we've had is transforming the potential into the reality. Whether it's wealth in terms of fishery, wealth in terms of forestry, wealth in terms of iron ore, that's wealth. We are engaged with partners and investors in the process of converting that potential into reality. I believe that's where the difficulty is. That's where the challenge is. Why is it that we have these subsoil resources, these forests, but we don't seem to be leveraging the optimal or the maximal from them? What we're doing here today is to ask the question, is to answer the question that we are going to maximize the opportunities that exist in all of these areas under this new partnership to deliver better for the Liberian people. I think that's what we're signing up to. So we're signing up to the commitment that in the forest space, logging is not, even sustainable logging is not going to be the path forward. In as much as we want to do sustainable logging, meaning we cut the trees and replant them, our real path forward is leveraging the carbon potential of our forest, as indicated by our president. That's our future. Because then that means we can leverage the resources to solve the infrastructure constraints that continue to bedevil the private sector. If we went the other way to generate our accrued revenue from cutting down the trees, it would take 100 years to achieve development. So the faster route is for the European Union and all our other multilateral partners to help us to see how do we make the most out of this 40% of the Upper Guinean forest that resides in Liberia. Under the Paris Accord, Article 6.2 of the Paris Accord, the government, the president has mandated the cabinet to engage with countries and partnerships to leverage Article 6.2 effectively to ensure we catalyze resources here for roads, infrastructure, and for human capital development. So that is a clear path of the government and the president. The president has identified, and the government, the cabinet is following through. To leverage the possibilities of, to finalize agreements on leveraging and accessing $50 billion that the UAE has identified. 50 billion United States dollars in resources. We want a fraction of that to come to Liberia to solve our binding constraints. So we encourage your support as European Union. We encourage the European Union to do the same. We look to work with the European Union Trade and Emission Scheme to see how we leverage. This is where this partnership, so when we say natural resource, that's what we are talking about. And when I'm signing, when you saw me signing those 8 agreements, that is the meaning of my signing. I hope that is the same meaning we have. If we have different meanings in my signing, then from the beginning, we're beginning to have some conflict. But I know my brother and myself were signing the same thing. So that's a vision. That's a strategic vision of the president. The president elucidated this vision in Glasgow. And he repeated it in Kamashan. And the cabinet has been seized, the Minister of Agriculture, the chair, head of FDA, the board, and the entire steering committee have been seized on what do we make of the president's pronouncement for Liberia. And we've been working ever since to deliver that. So you're going to hear about different agreements, different frameworks we're entering into, but it's about the biodiversity, the forest cover that we have, the greenery that we enjoy, turning that greenery into greenbacks, green cash, US dollars or euros, to come here to solve the binding constraints, which is electricity, roads, and human capital. The World Bank latest report has said that human capital development poses a significant risk for Liberia. We need to spend $100 million every year going forward over the next 5 years if we are to turn the human capital story around in Liberia, in health and education. Where is that money going to come from? Well, some of that money, and most of that money should come from our greenery. So that's where we're going. You know, on fisheries, I mean, we're talking about jobs, which is the next thing. Okay, what do we do about fisheries? All right, we're working with the World Bank to stand up a port, a modern port. Fisheries can hire many thousands of Liberians. We've been doing well, but there's the next level that we have to achieve with our partnership with the bank, with the EU, with everybody else. So I think this is the opportunity. On the chapter of jobs, the clear path, there's a misconception about jobs in Liberia. And let me clarify that, what that misconception. People believe that most people are hired when a company comes here, say an ArcelorMittal comes here and hires 1,000 people, then jobs are provided. Okay, let me say this. There are 50,000 Liberians now looking for work. An ArcelorMittal will hire maximum 1,005. A B Mountain will hire another 700. You do not have iron ore reserves to attract maybe 10,000 ArcelorMittal, because basically at that rate where you're going, you need about 500 companies like ArcelorMittal to come in the country, in the natural resource sector, for you to hire, each one of them hiring 1,000 persons. That's not going to happen because natural resource endowments are finite in Liberia and they are depletable. So the maximum number you can get from these big concessions, it cannot even touch the employment potential in Liberia. That's right. What touches the employment potential in this country is the small business sector. It's self-employment. Most of the jobs in the world are not provided by the Apples of the world, by big multinationals. They are the mom and pop shops, the small businesses. So what this agreement says is that we understand this logic. We now have to say, what do we do to make these mom and pop shops, these SMEs, move to industrial scale, leverage the potential using technical vocational education, for example, using guarantee schemes, using the business climate support programs that we have. How do we move the private sector? Small businesses in Liberia want loans. And they are right, because the reason why jobs grow in any economy is when loans are given. There is a one-on-one relationship between a loan that a bank gives and the person that is hired, directly one-on-one. Any company that receives loans sets up a shop. To set up a shop, you need to hire at least one human being to start a business. But most banks are not giving loans to the agriculture sector because of risk. And we are asking the European Investment Bank, the EU, and other partners, the IFC, to come to help work with the government to de-risk the agriculture sector, the small lending sector. And they're not asking for a whole lot. Small things. Some of them are asking for $1,000. Some are asking for $3,000. Small loans. Well, let's get together and provide these loans. Let's work to protect the environment. The other thing is that when they get loans from the bank, immediately as they get the loan, they start to pay back. So this is why, Ms. Ambassador, remember we talked about Propaco, and I'm glad that Propaco is making some moves here in Liberia as well. So the idea is that Propaco and others will be able to venture out and help small businesses, because that's all they need. They're asking for support from the government, many of them. And not just small businesses. I see Mr. Kawi saying, I'll bring the rubber question in. This is part of the agriculture story, rubber. Okay? They are asking for $10 million, $15 million to bring in $400 million. But they can't get it from the banks. They're coming to the government, to the Minister of Finance. We're helping. This should be part of the conversation. If rubber sector collapses, poverty will worsen in Liberia because they are one of the largest employers, sector that employs the most Liberians in the country. Well, if the price of rubber collapses, or if they're not able to add value to mitigate the collapse in the price of rubber, then that's a problem for poverty in the country. And we are seized on that initiative. This new thing we're working on should be seized on that as well. It's part of the agriculture sector. So that's cash agriculture. The one on my left here represents food agriculture, where we know we have to, which represent all agriculture. She move all, she represent all, but they want to say she want to emphasize the food farm. Because we're doing better with cash. We should do better with coffee right before the war. We got to come back to that. Cocoa was doing much better here. Rubber is way ahead of the pack. But rice has been struggling. Rice. And this program is going to pay particular attention to the rice part. The president has challenged all of us. Different experts have come. I was just talking to an Israeli expert this morning. He said he worked in Paraguay, he worked in Brazil on rice, and he said, look, we can do rice. The thing that I've talked to the agriculture minister, all the other farmers, and they've identified the constraints. I've asked them, they said, Mr. Minister, the reason why we face challenges with rice, we're facing challenges with rice is because we don't have land that are cleared, number one. If you clear our land, all right? Clear our land, we call it de-stumping, the trees, because they're basically planting rice among trees and tree stumps. So we need to make the investment to clear the land. They say if we clear the land, Minister, first of all, we produce rice because we have to pay the labor to clear the land. Our rice price is not competitive because we have to add that to get it back. Then the imported rice. So the local rice price is here, the imported rice price is there.
Yeah.
So, you see that? Where the market is going to go? The market is coming here. Now, besides that, here also has some quality. So the price is lower, imported price is lower, but it also it's bagged properly. It looks more quality than the guy here. The market will crash, collapse. We have to flip that around, where the local price is here and the quality is here and the imported is here. This thing we are signing is about doing this transformation from here to here. I hope that is what we're signing. That's what we want. That's what the president wants. So at the end of the day, the local growers can have the land, can have the mechanization, and the framework for mechanization. Are each one of them going to be owning the tractors, or do we need a public-private partnership to manage a fleet of tractors to move? Do we declare agricultural land like roads? See, road is a public land. Everybody can fly on it. You can drive on it. The investor can drive. Everybody. It's owned by nobody. It's owned by the public. Agricultural land has to be the same. In the same way the Ministry of Public Works can go and clear land, we have to find a framework to declare all lands that are for rice production public land in a way that we go and clear it. Now, the owner of the land will have the deed. Once it is cleared, he can sell that or lease that to an investor, so he has income. Right now, he's sitting on trees. Doesn't know the value. We move and clear the trees, and then he doesn't want to be, he's not a rice grower. He said, look, Mr. Sony, Professor Sony, you can grow rice. Come, lease my land, and I will give it to you for 10 years, or 20 years, or 50 years. Just give me my cash. We grow jobs in the economy. So the potential of this program is massive. We got to realize it. Coming finally to democratic governance, we see the Election Commission ourselves here. Calling free and fair democratic elections. Look, the government has done well. We've done well with election financing, you know, and we got to give it up to the government. Yeah, I think right now we probably have a small amount to finish up with the National Election Commission. So funding has been well advanced. But she will tell you that there may have been a small gap there because our understanding was that the EU funding was going to come on the budget, but we understand that the EU funding is going directly. But then it's not related to, well, we make it talk all. No. We thought I went behind. But the real thing I want to talk about here is that a large share of the cost is about voter registration. And I think we need to end that in this new partnership with elections. We need to end the fact that we have to register 3 million people every year at a cost of some $20, $30 million by going to biometric. So everybody have a unique, and then as in other countries, there's no massive rollout. We wanted to do that. Let's push that down the road, maybe 2029 or some other election, or maybe the midterm before 2029. So we have the biometric, the national, what do you call them? The national registration system, the biometric, the NIR, right? We have them, and then we have their database. So they're now working to put those two databases together. So going forward, we hope this technical support that we're giving to NEC will help transition NEC into a system where we have a seamless transition between the biometric system national that we have and the system that NEC has. We hope that is a major goal that we can achieve here. Then that means that in the future we're not spending $50 $15, $20 million to register people. Everybody is uniquely identified through a number, and maybe it's just updating. Anybody who turns 18 gets updated into the next system. And then that's a clean way we're going. But as a government, as a country, we're committed to holding free, fair, transparent elections this year. We're making sure that all the funding are available, that there are no constraints to financing, and we're prepared to win the election to re-elect the president in October. So we're looking forward to that. On financial governance, we know public financial management, the PFAS school, all those things are, the EU pays attention to that. Governance, the president declared last year and this year as a year of governance. So we're working to ensure all governance systems across the country are intact. I can report to you that we've improved audit, and I know you've read the audit report. For the first time, the audit of the consolidated account, the 6 month that ended the special budget year, has moved from adverse opinion to unqualified opinion. This is the first unqualified opinion in the history of Liberia. That's a milestone. The auditor is concerned whether we can, let's not clap. He said, whether can we sustain that unqualified opinion and not move back to adverse. So the challenge is out there for the government. Government entities receiving public funds must account for them, must report in time. Financial reporting has been a challenge. The reason why the auditors have disclaimed in the past is because they say when they go to audit, they don't see financial reports that are commensurate with the volume of resources that people receive. So they disclaim it. They say, a disclaimer means I cannot make sense out of anything that you have shown me record-wise, so I pass a disclaimer. That's a mess. It means either all of the money was stolen, or it doesn't necessarily mean that, but because he can't even make sense on your spending because you don't have adequate record, he's not able to pass a judgment. And not being able to pass judgment is a negative in audit language. We've moved from that now. We've gone to adverse, and now we've gone to unqualified opinion. The question is, all ministers have to report on time. The law says, if a minister is not reporting on time, a law, we've not exercised that law, the Minister of Finance can hold the salary of the head of the entity. I didn't make that law. The national legislature passed that law. So we're about to move there. If there are entities that are not reporting, the minister will hold your salary. And if you start hearing, this is how you look at me, so the I didn't make the law. It is law. I'm just not enforcing the law. But there is a law. And we are saying that we want to enforce that law. Recently, he told American ambassador in one of his public statements, he mentioned that 45% of the government entities are not reporting. I have the responsibility as Minister of Finance to implement the public financial management law. I could be asked the question, why are you not holding salary of persons? What would be my response? Oh, Bahuda, my man. But we got to move from this Bahuda, my man thing to serious governance. Because the Bahuda, my man thing have been holding us down. So I'm making it clear here that I think the IA is going to a score sheet where entities that are not reporting on time will be flagged. We'll release a public report to see who's reporting and who's not reporting. It is your responsibility when we receive public money to account and report it. That's why audits begin. If there are no reports, there can be no audit because the guy will just go in and say, I can't do nothing, I just display. So we're committed to making sure that public financial management and governance reaches the next level under this program. So we're really onto something here. We're really onto something under the Paris Agenda for Aid Effectiveness. Let's use this momentum to show that that agenda that we signed several years ago is not a waste, and that the EU can be a flagship partnership for countries across the world, and let's set the example here in Liberia. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister.
Hi, it's your girl Sassy MC here, and I would like to welcome you to LIB Latest News 231 YouTube channel. LIB Latest News 231 is the place where you can watch all of your political news, entertainment news, and sports news. To stay informed about the latest news, please subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the notification button on your screen for more videos from Liberia, Africa, and the world at large.